Coach, I just caught somebody, and Ben, I caught somebody. I heard his ankle pop, and I'm like, all right, man, like don't be so damn excited around. Like, I'm happy, but this and that, and then he just. Most people think I gave him the nickname the Little Badger. Like, I didn't give myself the nickname the Badger because you're really not supposed to give yourself a nickname.
Bad luck.
And I didn't nickname him the Little Badger. Everybody else said, man, he fights just like you.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's like, he'll go after it. He's like an animal. He'll fight anybody. It's actually pretty funny. If you look up on YouTube, like, CSW sparring, I couldn't even remember the year, but it's got to be like early 2000, mid 2000s, and you'll see all these guys in a cage. You'll see Quentin Jackson and myself and Josh Barnett and James Wilkes and Babalu Sabral.
So cool.
And then all of a sudden in the background, in the cage with us, you'll see this tiny little kid. It looks like we had a Make-A-Wish day, and the kids. It was this kid's, dream to come and train with all these professional fighters. It's fucking Jacob Rosales.
Wow.
And that dude would go in there and go after it, and his dad and I became really close and cool. He saw that Jake and I had a pretty good bond, and he's like, man, he wants to do everything like you. He's,
Hell yeah.
in high school, he was telling his dad, he goes, I'm not going to college. I'm just going to bartend, and then I'm going to go fight, which is what I did forever, right? And then his dad finds out he's chewing the same tobacco I chewed at the time, and it was just like, So when he got done with high school, it was just, he's like, I want to fight. I go, all right, like this ain't going to be easy. Right, and then how many years later? Now we're here.
Yeah.
Damn.
On the cusp of a budding UFC career.
Right.
One more chance, and it's a wrap. It's a wrap for all these dudes in the UFC.
Right. I mean, the Contender Series, that was huge. I mean, I know the outcome, but the fact that he went in and fought with a broken femur, is that right?
No, he had a broken fibula.
Fibula.
Right at the bottom. He broke his fibula exactly 1 month to the day of the fight out.
Unreal.
What?
Contrary to what a lot of people believe, they're like, you're stupid for letting him fight and this
no.
and that. But here's the deal. With the UFC, which a lot of people don't know, you don't got options.
Yeah.
I do have somebody that I know that's on the inside, and I did try to pose the question of, could you move us back to a later date? The same fighter on a later date for example, this coming week would have been perfect. We'd had time to heal, time to train, and they were like, don't even tell him you got an injury. If you tell us you got an injury, they're just going to replace him. And with the UFC, your chances are slim.
Absolutely.
If you're not with certain managers, you're going all on the credentials of your fighting, and we didn't have an option. And we looked up all kinds of stuff, and we were taking all the vitamins and really doing all the stuff and did a bunch of research. Obviously, the Terrell Owens thing came out, right?
Yeah.
The Raiders linebacker, which I should know, I'm a Raiders fan, was I think it was Jack Ham, somebody who played a whole season. Or the Rams, Youngblood, played a whole season on a broken fibula. So, all these things were positive, and we're really putting a lot of positivity out there. And then the doctors gave us look at the Badger on the screen.
I know we did
I'm
that.
about to say, how'd that get in here?
I thought he came with me for a second. And then,
It's a spirit animal.
and then I had him riding a bike like 30 miles a day with his cast on, exercise bike, and we were hitting mitts while he was sitting on a wooden box.
Jesus. Wow.
So we were doing everything we possibly could have done, and that kid's so confident. I mean, that kid's a dog. He's just a dog. I know my dog, and I know when I let that leash go, I know he's gonna fight.
Beautiful.
And it just so went out there that when he went out there, I think he rebroke the leg really early in round one, and you could tell he was connecting with that guy, but because he didn't have his front leg, he couldn't really push that power in. I know this game, and I know fighters, and I know guys. I know when they get hit, and I know when guys are hitting. I know when guys are going to go. And had he had that front leg and pushed that power down, that fight was over in the first round. Even with the guillotine at the end of the round, when he went to put his legs over, he could feel the bone clicking, so he couldn't put pressure to sink in that guillotine. And anybody that has came into my gym and rolls with Jake knows if he gets that guillotine, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. I mean, that's his move. So, at the end of the day, look, we took our shot. They found out after. They said some really good stuff.
Right on.
I feel like they're going to offer us a contract, if not get another contender shot. So we'll be all right.
Yeah.
And he's
absolutely.
young. He's 24, so he's young. Just turned 24, so
Yeah.
we got time.
Already accomplished
We
so
got time
much.
to take the world over. So
Yes,
it's all
hell
right.
yes. I like to hear that. That's really cool. So getting back to you, though. I mean, Ben Jones is here. We know that you started there with Eric Paulson. I realize you had the football background, And then what drives you to go into the no-holds-barred Vale Tudo game and then even keep pushing? Because after a fight, maybe you're done, you're bored with it, but you have a hunger for this. You stayed in it your whole life.
Yeah, like I started fighting I didn't have anything else to do. I was working at a bar. I was a former professional football player. To be honest with you, I didn't have a dime to my name. It's not like I didn't play in the NFL, so I didn't make NFL money. I played in the CFL and the Arena League. And anybody that's ever played in those leagues or knows anything about them knows that you're not putting money away for houses and those things,
Yeah.
you know, especially back then in the late 90s, early 2000s. And when I got released from football and I started fighting, I loved it. One, because of the physicality. But mainly I loved being able to control my own destiny. Right? It was me that stepped in that goddamn cage, that ring to fight. Didn't come up to the opinion of some coaches who may not even have watched me during training camp, or I got 3 reps, right? And I just didn't get what I felt was my chance, or I just didn't get a look. It didn't come down to opinions anymore. It came down to what the fuck was I gonna do in that ring or cage, and that is where my destiny lied. And I loved being in control of my own destiny. Now, of course, you come into like promoters and, you know, all kinds of shit like that.
Sure.
Where, you know, but at the end of the day, I could control my own destiny, and I loved it. And it's one of the things that I love the most about the sport now. Right? I love that if you put the work in and you really dedicate yourself, you're gonna have success. And I love that. I love when results pay off.
Yeah.
You know?
The more you give to fighting, the more fighting gives back to you.
Exactly.
Is a fact. You know, you got to put in the work.
Now, there was a interesting little caveat at the last Barstar show. As you had a bunch of guys on that card. Obviously, you were in Vegas with Jacob. But there was an interesting caveat that I noticed when Jim Fitzgerald was announcing your guys out. It was not just Eric Paulson's CSW, but Eric Paulson, Ben Jones, a CSW. That's got to be a crazy accomplishment in your career as a coach to, share space with your mentor, Eric Paulson. That's got to be a huge honor.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, there's no bigger honor in my life than Eric ever gave me about being the head coach of this team and being the only other coach other than him. You know, and that honor goes back to he named me the team captain, the one and only team captain when I was fighting in front of guys that were legends and are absolutely Hall of Famers because he trusted me with his style. And just to correct you on that, it's not Ben Jones, it's not Eric Paulson and Ben Jones at CSW. It's Eric Paulson CSW trained by Ben Jones.
That's crazy.
Right? That's how it should be, right? We are not equals. Right? That is my mentor, that is the man who taught me his life's work, and he did it for free.
Wow.
Right? Like I paid the first 2 months, I paid $50 to go in 2 days a week, and I would give him $50 cash. Shit, at the time I didn't have much more.
Wow.
And after 2 months, I went to give him money the third time for the third month, and he goes, "Don't give me money anymore." He goes, "Just keep showing up. If you keep showing up, you never have to pay." And I was like, "Cool," and I never stopped.
Wow.
Right? To this
As
day,
real as
I
it
don't
gets.
take money to teach there because he taught me his life's work for nothing.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that.
Absolutely.
Right? Nobody has to do that. And that is like the true martial arts spirit that I love, which is, what I'm trying to pass on to my guys coming up now. Like Jacob and Javier Garcia and Curtis, like they'll come and teach and they teach for free. Right? Like, and I tell them, it's not about getting paid. It's about paying back what, it's the true martial arts spirit. And then another thing, that's what I love about this game.
Sure.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does feel awesome. I'm mentioned and him being my mentor or me being his protege, whichever way people want to word it, it's pretty special to me.
Absolutely, and I thought it was a little bit poignant in the sense that you were there because your protege is in Vegas in the biggest fight of his life. So
Absolutely.
there was a cool little full circle thing that it was a reciprocation of what Eric taught to you.
Right.
You were teaching to Jacob, and it was amazing. And I just kind of stood back and I was just like, that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I mean, me and Jake were in Vegas. We had went to the movies. We always watch a movie the night before the fight. Me and my pros, Curtis and all these guys, we go out to our weigh-in dinner, then we go watch a movie. And me and Jake couldn't have got out of that theater early enough to get our ass. I think we went to Yard House in Vegas or something, and we're watching it on my phone, watching the Sparstar on my phone, trying to get the link with the shitty internet and harassing the waitress for the Wi-Fi so that we could watch the fights. We ended up watching, I think, 3 of the 4 or 3 of the 5. and we're screaming at my phone, and and I trust me, I hate not being there. I hate not being there when any of my guys fight, from the pros to the amateurs. Right, it's all the same to me. Right, like I love it.
Yeah, no, and I saw a bit of that intensity firsthand out at CFL with a gentleman who's been on our show before, Nick Patea, right?
yeah.
And
Young man,
man,
he's got a lot of heart.
I
That
swear,
kid's talented too.
yeah,
I love
absolutely. But I mean, the way that you were getting fired up, I can't imagine any of your guys not being as fired up, if not more so, to see this is a guy that's in my corner. This is my general in this game plan, this war plan, and he's getting revved up right in there. We're standing shoulder to shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
This is on.
Well, different guys have different styles and different techniques, and there's nothing wrong with the way that so and so does it or so and so does it or
Sure.
who's but I have my way, right? And people know that, and they're gravitated to it. The guys that come to my gym, and let me preface this by saying, not everybody's meant for me to be their head coach, right? I got no business in training guys that don't want to be world champions, and I tell my guys every day, if you don't want to be a world champion, you just walk out the door. Right, it don't mean shit to me to lose you if that's not your goal.
Right.
And they're not all going to be world champions. Trust me, I understand that. Right, and I have a style and a technique that has worked for me, and I feel like I've had some pretty good success at it. And I'm definitely intense, right? But for each guy, I'm different. Each guy I have a different kind of intensity. Like I can't be super crazy intense for Curtis, because he's laid back, and I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm reading what vibe they're giving me. I'm reading the tension they're giving me, and sometimes they need to get revved up, right? Like sometimes I got to pull back mine a little bit, because I might see them getting a little bit out of that comfort zone. I like them, right, where they're on that edge, but they're not losing energy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a fine line. Like there's a lot more to coaching, and I think being a great coach than yelling combos and moves on the ground or counter wrestling when during the fight is. I think there's so much more to it throughout training camp, throughout the lead into a fight. There's a lot of trust that has to get built there, and I know my guys trust me, right? But I build that with them. I feel, you could have them on there. They might disagree, but
No, I agree.
they won't.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
They better not.
I mean, you're allowed badger slaps. You're right and left. So I
You see, people are biting my badger slap out there now.
yeah,
That
that's
is for
good.
Adam, not for John Arredondo.
I guess that might happen at the end of the show, folks.
Do you know where that started?
No,
Do you,
absolutely.
do,
not.
you, do you guys know Jay Martinez? I know you know who Jay Martinez
Yes,
is.
I
I
know
do.
Jay's.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jay's the OG of OGs
Sure.
when it comes to CSW fight team. Him and Eric originally created the CSW fight team for a guy named James Wilkes, who won the Ultimate Fighter.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so they created that
Lightning
for him.
MMA, James
And
Wilkes.
then I came in shortly after, and then just shortly after me, Josh came in, and obviously he had already been a UFC champion, was fighting in Pride, and then all these other guys ended up coming in. That slap originated with Jay Martinez. His brother would slap him before he wrestled.
Wow.
Whoa.
Right, so then Jay brought that in, and then Eric took it, and then Josh took
Yeah.
it, and then obviously I put it on a different hemisphere,
Yeah,
right?
hell yeah.
But I mean, don't get it twisted. When Coach would slap me, there also used to be another slap.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be two across the face, and then one on the middle of your back, and then he used to take the back of my trunks and cram them up my ass for some reason right before I got in, and I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And Josh would yell at him, so then Josh sort of took over the slap. I mean, Josh had slapped me and then backhanded me before I got in. I spit blood as I got in the cage on the mat. So it's, I hear a bunch of people, saying like, oh, he's going to knock him out. He's going to knock him out. Listen, look, I'm not out here raising bitches, right? Like they're going to go in there and that dude's going to hit him as hard as he can.
Yeah.
Right? So, when I was playing football, the opening kickoff was always a big deal.
Sure.
Because you want to run down. And, I was always a wedge breaker. I loved to hit. Hitting was my thing. And I could run down on kickoff and throw my body at that wedge and get that first crack and that first ooh, right? And then when I got in that defensive huddle, shit, it was green light from then on. So some of these guys don't start fighting early enough,
Sure.
right? And
Yeah.
that first sting of that punch, it can make their eyes wide. And then it might take them 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, a round to to get back.
Sure.
But when I taste your lips right there with that slap, you know, and you get in there, shit, the fight's already happened.
Yeah.
Right? Like you already got that sting, and for me it works. And you know, and it's always worked for CSW. We've had a pretty good run of win. We've had a lot of belts and a lot of champions, and it's just something that I carried on and I'm making a
bring
thing
it
of
up.
my own.
You bring up something important, though. People don't necessarily engage right away. They don't close the distance right away. They're feeling each other out, and maybe that's partly to do with tournament people, fighters. There's a hollow feeling, the adrenaline dump. All that takes place in the first 30 seconds to a minute.
Right.
But you got Ben Jones smacking you across the face. I don't know that chemically it has that same time to build up inside you for you to
Yep.
think about it.
Right.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
then he's right. The
Plus, they're already
engagement starts.
pissed.
Yes.
They're already mad.
Yeah.
Before that fight, later on, got to get weight to hit to get mad. You know.
I think psychologically you're onto something. I think chemically it makes sense.
Yeah.
They don't get that. They're ready to go. It
They-
really brings
they-
them into the game.
Trust me when I say they want it.
Yeah.
Trust me when I say that one of the things I miss about fighting the most was feeling that.
Yeah.
Right. I miss a couple things about fighting since I retired. I miss the walk.
Mm-hmm.
I miss walking out from that back apron. I miss seeing the crowd. I miss missing the cheers and the boos and all the shit talking.
yeah.
I fed off that.
Yeah.
That's why I love fighting out of California, and I really miss the slap because it meant it's time. Like
Yeah.
it's time to go. Like let's go do this shit. All those hours in the gym, all those miles on the outside on the concrete, all those minutes in the sauna, cutting weight, not eating cookies,
Whoa.
right? All that shit. It just adds up, and that slap always was like, yo, it's fucking go time.
It's
And that's
heavy.
That's the shit that, excuse my French, that shit that got my dick hard when I was fighting. Like I loved it.
There it is.
Right? Like I
It's
just
for real.
That was just me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I mean, you've retired as a fighter, but I mean, you're head coach. Now, do you get the same kind of rush, leading your charges into battle? Because that's, you're walking out with them. You're one of their corner. You're a principal member of the team, if not the general, right? And so, do you get some of that, or is it?
I do. I get a lot of it, right? Like I get my fix on that. I'm a guy that always thrived in tension. I love uncomfortable situations. If this conversation you guys didn't like each other, I would be here instigating
each
you
other.
guys, right? Like it would just be.
Fucker.
I live in those situations. I
good.
love them. Like when I was a bartender, I was always antagonizing people, right? Because I thrive in stressful situations.
Yeah.
So I get that fix walking out with these guys and being in that corner, and it's obviously much more controlled because like I'm not the one taking the damage, but trust me, my heart takes as much damage as their bodies do because I truly love my guys.
Yeah.
Right. And I think my guys know that, and I think that other teams and coaches, they see that in me with my guys. Like I really care about each and every one of them. Those guys have dedicated a lot to me, and trust me, I love the feeling, and I definitely get that. I get my fix off of that.
No.
And I got so many goddamn guys. I'm
Yeah.
getting that. Sometimes I get it 6 times a night when I got 6 fighters on the same card.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's overload, but I mean, this is my dream. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So
When did you kind of know that? It's an interesting thing because athletically gifted, obviously the right size to do almost anything that you want. So you can just impose your will as a football player, then as a fighter. When do you realize that you've come to a moment that, you know what, this is really going to take me somewhere? I mean, you're a name to be reckoned with in the sport.
So I had, when I was growing up, I had a dream of playing in the NFL. And I never reached it. I accomplished something that less than 0.1% of people that ever strap on a football helmet ever do. And I did accomplish quite a bit in that, but I never made it to my goal. I never made it to the NFL.
Got it.
When I started fighting, I got into that really late because of football. And one thing led to another, and I never fought in the UFC, right? And obviously that was a dream of mine of making it to the UFC and doing that kind of stuff. And so for me, those 2 goals were unattained. Now, I know for a lot of people, they would be like, well, you accomplished a lot. And I definitely look at that. I believe in looking at things very positively, right? And not being the woe is me shit, which is why I don't make excuses for anything. It was all stuff I did. But throughout that time of fighting and playing football, I coached also. I coached high school football. I coached at Buena Park High School. I coached at Lakewood High School. When Eric would go out of town, I would teach the classes. And everybody always says like, or everybody would always say like, man, you're a really good coach, right? This is what you were meant to do. But because I was an athlete, I always sort of put it off on the back burner. Like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, cool, thanks. But that's not really what I wanted them to say to me, right? I wanted them to say like, oh, you're the best fighter in the world, or you're the best
Sure.
football player in the world,
Should be
right?
playing.
But the more I got into it, the more I like really took on that captain role. And as Eric was gone more, traveling more, and I took more of it. And then when he gave it to me and I started having success, it just dawned on me like, this is what I was meant to do. I was meant to not get that other thing because I was meant to do this here with these guys. And a lot of it stems from Jacob. Like I saw this, you know, I could very present seeing the success I was having with Jake.
Yeah.
Right. And it showed me that you're fucking onto something.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe this is what you were meant to do. Maybe this is your goal.
Sure.
And that's, you know, that's sort of just, you know, how I view it and how I look at it. And I try to be like, you know, super positive about it. You know, like, yeah, maybe I wasn't meant to fight in the UFC or play in the NFL, but I was fucking meant to do this.
You're probably meant to go to war so you can train soldiers.
Yeah, who knows?
You know? So,
I'm not about getting shot, and I don't like the
no,
water.
no,
so-
but
There you go.
figuratively speaking, you were in some wars, and you know you came back with all that knowledge, and without that impact on your life, you wouldn't know what it meant to be down in the dirt in the trenches.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what you pass on.
yeah.
Now, obviously, you've been in the game a long time, right? So, do you have any crazy stories about like shows or fight experiences as a fighter or as a coach that you've kind of gone through? And
I got a ton of them.
Uh-oh.
I got a ton. There was a time that I thought I was gonna have to fight Fedor Emelianenko.
what?
The emperor.
Oh, this.
Dude,
Here we go.
Now he didn't realize this either, right? And I don't think very many other people did. But there's a funny story of at the Affliction show, Alexander Emelianenko was fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Fedor's brother. Yeah.
Well, Josh, I cornered Josh for that fight, right? And at the weigh-ins, somehow Josh and Alexander had some kind of message as it got misconstrued about between them. So Josh had some beef. You know, at the time, Josh's manager was also my manager. Real sweet woman. And we're sitting backstage at the weigh-ins, and she's like, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Go to Josh." And I was like, this dude was sitting right next to me. We hadn't even walked out on stage with Donald Trump and all them to go to weigh-ins. And I look up, and I hope Josh doesn't get mad at me for telling the story, but it's a fucking great story.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Josh is
Those are
such
the
a
best.
fucking warrior that he was like, there's Alexander right there in the locker room. I'm going to go confront this dude.
That's
And
the
I
War
look
Master.
over, and Josh is standing there talking to Alexander. They're not nose to nose, but they're close enough for it to be uncomfortable. So I fucking, she goes, you better go. So me and Jamie Fletcher,
Wow.
who was my teammate at the time, we go and get on both sides of Alexander because we're like, I mean, he's got a bunch of Russian dudes with him.
Yeah.
And Fedor was somewhere around there, and I was like, oh shit, man, if Josh starts whooping this dude's ass, I'm gonna have to fucking punch somebody, and I hope the dude that doesn't walk up is Fedor. 'Cause I'm not trying to get killed backstage, but he's gonna catch one at least. So it was luckily it ended up not getting there, and afterwards we're walking back and I'm like, Josh, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Why did you do that? I don't let nobody slide. I was like, all right, shit, fuck it. Right? And that was just that CSW mentality, you know, and one of the reasons I have a ton of respect for him. You know,
Yeah.
'cause very much like I am, where he's got issue with you, he's going to talk to you about it. Don't matter who you are.
Absolutely. You mean Russian to English doesn't translate very well?
It wasn't translating that day real well,
Fuck.
but he seemed to understand what Josh was saying. So I almost fought Boss Rudin.
Holy
What?
shit.
No
the
way.
hell?
You remember when Boss Rudin, when that show came out, the one that was in L.A., Machida was on it. Was it LFA or
IFL?
WFA or something?
Yeah.
It was one show. It was like at the Forum or
Forum,
something.
yeah.
And Boss Rudin was the main event, and he was supposed to fight Chemo.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
Chemo popped dirty, right? And on 2 days' notice, we had a guy that also ran our gym at the time. His name was Freddie George, right? And he comes up, he goes, "I got a fight for you. It's 10 grand." Right? And at the time, I think I had like 4 fights or 5 fights or something like that. And I'm like, cool. I'm like 10 grand. Shit, let's do it.
Let's do that.
I just made $500 my last fight. Let's go do this shit. And then he was like, and I'm like, who's it against? He goes, Boss Rutan, and it's in 2 days. And I was like, no. Right? I'm doing this dude's Big Book of Combat shadowboxing DVDs, right? Every day. Boss Rutan, other than Eric, was my hero. Like, no, I'm not going to go in there and get my liver slapped out through my mouth. Like, no.
He ended up fighting that.
He fought Ruben
Indian dude,
Villarreal.
Okay.
Warpath.
Yeah,
And he had the
yeah.
eye pain. He came out in a singlet. He was like a King of the Cage guy. Yeah, Boss damn near killed his ass. And he had like a torn groin the whole time. I mean, trust me, there was nobody that it was Boss's last
At
fight.
that
There was
time,
nobody
yeah.
that was talking me into taking that fight. But it was interesting that I got offered a fight, Boss Rutan on 48 hours notice.
I can't remember who told
heavy.
me about that happening. I think it was Frank Trigg was mentioning it on a tag radio. Like,
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that.
Something happened to Chemo. I could have swore it was some kind of pop dirty or something like that. I mean,
I'm sure of it.
Could've
yeah.
He's got more than one incident.
I don't think that's a secret.
Wait,
I
I
think
was
guy
thinking-
carried a fucking crucifix.
Crucifix,
out.
yeah, exactly. Maybe it was a splinter, dirty splinter. There's a plausible excuse for everything. Maybe not.
That's the history of what we know as MMA, though. That was it, right? And then it
Yeah.
just really started to kind of grow into more of a sport.
The Ultimate Fighter was right after that, and then the
Yeah.
explosion of the sport. Yeah.
It
So
just
it was
started to happen.
It was cool. Now, I got a bunch of stories, but those are some of the better ones.
Yeah.
But just real quick, our show is sponsored by All 7,
All 7.
Massage Matters, Word of Mouth, MMA Inc. events, and Our Life CBD.
That's right.
And we can't forget about Cauliflower
Got
Nation.
that shit. Ha!
And Cauliflower Nation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris Crail.
And I just said it.
MMA Events Inc. There you go.
I already said it. I already said it, bro. You just-
Hey, they got an event coming up in November. Is it November, December?
Yeah,
November.
in conjunction with a show in Long
They just
Beach.
announced it, so check them out. There's
Yeah,
going to be good
check
fights.
out-
They're looking for amateurs, and they're killers.
There it is.
That's
There it
where the
is.
future happens.
And our special guest again tonight is Ben, the Badger
There it is.
Jones.
Yeah.
That, look,
There you go.
There you
There you
go.
go.
The ominous clouds behind us.
The Badgers, she says, hell no.
Yeah. Okay.
She
So-
think me or that thing?
Yeah, I know. Hey,
She'll probably
Ray,
like
get
it.
this guy. So there you go. Sorry, Sarah. My bad. But anywho,
That's a match made in heaven. That's an Oreo cookie waiting to happen.
Hello.
A lot of cream.
That's a double stuff right there.
Enough cookie on top of that cream.
Our Life CBD.
You'll need it after.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need it after.
That's the gimmick, Johnny.
I'm buying that right now. That
Yeah,
phrase.
damn right.
You need it after.
Oh my goodness. So I mean, right off the bat, we got
Bring it
like
back, Adam. Bring it back.
you almost fighting arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time, and then you a bona fide Hall of Famer.
There wasn't gonna be a fight. I was gonna have to just sucker punch his ass. Trust me. And trust me, I did not want to do that either. I was merely backing up my boy and backing up my teammate.
Well, at
Thank
that
God
time-
it didn't have to happen.
Right?
So you guys think you're ride or die, but like my goodness, you guys are ride or die. As
Me and Jamie Fletcher. Was my dog back in the day. We were down to do it. We didn't want to do it, but we were down to do it if it happened.
Now, Ben, real quick, you have this look and this attitude. Did any wrestling opportunity come your way, like your WWE, NWA,
No.
WCW?
They paid
No,
good.
when Josh was training with us, actually him and Eric both talked about they could get me gigs in Japan doing like a pro wrestling or. But as soon as Josh was explaining that when you go there, you like start in these small gyms and you're not really making any money. And at the time, I really had no interest.
Well, I figured Japan. They'll probably look at you. I heard that people like you and the like big guys, they treat them like gods out there because it's
Yeah.
like different.
My buddy went out there. The buddy that I originally got into it, him and Josh became really good friends.
Okay.
And my friend, he's like 6'5", like 300 pounds, 6-pack abs. He's a freaking nature.
Yeah.
Well, him and Josh ended up going out there and doing a lot of wrestling. My best friend, who was friends with him too, went out there. He doesn't do anything, right? And they treated him like a god. So I can only imagine what it would be like there.
Yeah.
I had no. Look, I'm an athlete, right? I've been an
Yeah.
athlete my whole life, and without sounding too cocky, I consider myself, when I was going, a super athlete, right? I could do things that a lot of people couldn't do.
Yeah.
And for me, I just had no interest in that part of it. For me, it was all about proving myself.
And you're right, because some segments get brought up on this show and the show we do after. How do you feel about MMA fighters trying to transition into the world of entertainment of like wrestling?
I think it's smart.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I love pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I watched it as a kid. I watched it occasionally as an adult.
Yeah.
Right? Curtis Melinder's probably one of the biggest wrestling fans you ever met in your life. Right? And look, I've been very lucky in that opportunity, the gym I've been in, that a lot of pro wrestlers have came in there to work with
Sweet.
Eric or Josh, and meeting them, and it's really cool. Like, I sat on the couch and talked to the British Bulldog's ex-wife or wife,
Diana Smith, yeah.
and wrestled with her son, wrestled with Harry.
Yeah,
on the
Harry.
mat.
Wow.
That's
Right.
crazy.
So, it's like, I have a lot of respect for those guys and what they do, and it's very, very entertaining to me, right? And now with, you got one of my ex-teammates, Shayna Baszler. She's killing it at NXT.
Yeah, in NXT,
Right?
yeah, NXT
But
Women's Champion.
She's loved wrestling since the day I met her. Since she was
awesome.
fighting in Strikeforce and coming out here and training and staying at my house for a night or two, right? Like, she's always loved it. And I like that there's an avenue for some people when they get done with this sport.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot.
No.
There's not a lot to do after the sport.
No.
Right? Like, what are you going to do? You're going to become a coach? Well, not everybody can be a coach.
Right.
Are you going to travel and teach seminars? Well, not that many people do. I'm lucky enough to do that because I was taught how to do that.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I've seen, like, growing up, I mean, I'm 45 and watch some of these guys come up as MMA fighters. They get that fat cash and they're just spending like crazy, not bother investing to build into their future.
Absolutely.
Either build a gym or maybe have a car dealership or a restaurant or a bar, and they're just struggling. It's just,
Right.
it's sad because a lot of these guys get that money so quick and they spend it like they're Liberace. You know what I mean?
I have an idea that I don't know that it would be feasible to even do, but I'm so frustrated with the landscape of judging and refereeing in MMA that I believe there should be a program for fighters when they get done that is like a trade school where they can go become judges,
you
become
go.
referees. Because look, the most frustrating thing for me when a fight happens is I'm watching the fight and I'm a very realistic coach. Like, I tell my guys, you lost that round, right? I'll tell Dale when we get in the ring or the cage after the fight, I go, I think we got it 29-28. We definitely lost this round. Or I'll tell him, I go, round 2 was a gimme. And I don't know. And I'm very realistic about it, right? I'm not like, oh, I won 32. I know it. And then I hear these fucking judges, right? I hear these judges' names. I look over. This dude's got 6 pairs of reading glasses on, right? He's
Like,
got
who
a
is he?
cane.
Yeah.
He's got a cane, and his seeing eye dog is sitting next to him, right? Like, it
a
shouldn't be
shame.
that way.
That's a
when
shame.
you have a plethora of guys
Right.
that are my generation, and even a little bit before my generation,
Yeah.
right? Which I was near the beginning, not at the beginning, right? Right before the explosion. I guess you would say that was my generation. You have these guys that aren't doing anything now. But if they had this trade school where they could go to, not even a trade school, just a place that would give them job placement or pay them a little bit of money to go out there and do this, and then we would have legitimate judging, right? We'd have judging that was backed up by
Years of experience.
years
So
of
needed.
experience.
Absolutely.
So needed.
Right, and commission, and working in the commissioner. And trust me, there's a lot of really, really great commissioners. Right, there's a lot of guys. I have an excellent relationship with the California Athletic Commission and all the guys with the Camo Athletic
Yeah,
Commission.
absolutely.
Right, and there's a lot of great guys, but there's some people that don't belong there. And refereeing, right?
That is
Refereeing
true.
is huge. You know, one of the best things for me is when I go to fights and I see Frank Trigg refereeing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? Because like, God, this guy still stayed in it, and
It's a
he
badass.
found his avenue. And there's a ton of great refs out there. There's not really any refs that I don't feel are really legitimate. I love Mike Beltran. I love Michael Bell.
Yeah.
Jason is great.
Jason
Obviously,
Herzog,
Herb
yeah.
is a legend in it. Big John when he was doing it. Like, there's so many good guys that they've all refed me, right? But just imagine if you saw like these guys that were legends around this time and don't really have much to do anything anymore. If they were in there too, it'd be even better,
Yeah, 'cause
Absolutely.
It's
It
really
would
sad
make the
'cause-
show,
wouldn't it?
right?
Yeah, it's really sad because like back when I used to box, when I was weighing about good 220, I used to be in the same gym
Get
with
a box lunch?
with Tank Abbott, Tiki, Razor Rob, Tito Ortiz, and a lot of those guys are doing. A lot of them are. A couple of those guys are successful, but you see somebody like Tank Abbott. It's like
Which
yeah.
of them are successful?
Well, Razor Rob, he's coaching the
UFC.
UFC gym.
Oh yeah. He's traveling around.
He's
doing
traveling
that.
around doing that.
Yeah.
Tiki, I'm not sure what he's doing now.
He's managing.
Yeah, he
he's
is.
actually doing
Yeah,
pretty
he's
well.
doing
most
really
of those
well.
guys I know, they're doing great. The only problem is, like you see, like a legend like Tank Abbott. I know he's kind of old, but if he would have had that training, like you said a long time ago, to be
BJ
a ref
Penn.
or to a coach, well, BJ Penn's guys got to stop getting knocked out at bars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He
Just-
was
He had his
before he
hands
started
down.
fighting.
He had his
Yeah,
hands down.
yeah, but
He
still,
let
he
that
got-
guy do that, but he still did take.
But still, you're right. I mean, that'll be kind of something cool to see come up with like MMA fighters that are retired to give them some type of schooling, some type of trade, and so they can actually work at some of these big MMA events so they can make that money.
Yeah, it just makes me it reminds me of my football career, right? So professional sports is the only thing. It's the only thing in the world. The only job you can have in the world where, let's take an artist. You have this artist, boom, their hand gets cut off. They can't paint no more. What does the world say? Oh, it's a fucking travesty, right? It's what a disappointment that this artist can't paint anymore.
Right.
But here's what they say about these freak of nature athletes that dedicate their whole life. Boom, breaks his leg, ankle, shattered, ripped, tears his Achilles tendon, can't play anymore. Go get a job, Grouch. Go get a job, loser.
Yeah.
You were playing a sport. What the fuck? We talking, this dude's an artist.
Right.
Right? Like,
At
it's
that
the
level.
only thing where there's absolutely no. Really, really thankful of where I'm at because I fell into. I shouldn't say I fell into it. I forged this thing with Eric and built this bond where, like,
Because I never wore headgear when I was a box. I used to hate it.
Well, that
And-
explains everything.
Yeah,
I,
so
I've never worn it either.
yeah, and I just hate it. So I took a lot of hits in my life, and it's just crazy. So, yeah.
Speaking of boxing, that is something in your game plan that you are pretty passionate about. So
That's an
the,
interesting way to put it.
the
yeah.
history of boxing, according
have
to
a-
Ben Jones.
I have a love and hate relationship with the boxing world. Boxing, and my love of boxing is what got me into fighting, right? I mean, really, I loved boxing growing up. I'm talking about Bone Crusher Smith, freaking all these guys. Like, I loved watching boxing as a kid. Saturday mornings, they would have boxing on TV.
Yeah, they did,
right?
yeah.
Friday night